So let's see what happens with 5 rounds of Freedom Munitions, 175 grainers, hull point, boat tail. Obviously, they're not a match load, so the SD is going to be a little all over. I'm just going to hold the same and try to fight the wind and see what happens. Yeah, that's a good long delay. That was 14 mils with the can. If I have the can off, it's more like 12, but 14 mils, and then I have to hold a mil for wind. At least I was during that variability there. So that's kind of cool. 2/3 size IDPA, and it's somewhat repeatable. If it's not windy, I would say it's repeatable. With the wind, there's going to be some fighting that. With better ammo, definitely higher hit ratios for sure. There's another one. There's another one. So that was like 3 for 5. You know what? I'll take it. With non-match ammo and a short barrel like this, throw it on a can that's almost as long as the barrel is. Such a handy little package. It's really incredible that it's as consistent as it is with those big, heavy bullets. Being able to stabilize it decently well out to 630 yards with a little package like this that folds up and fits inside of my tiny backpack. I can't be much happier than I am with this. Savage, you really, really knocked it out of the park. This is a good one. This is a winner, and I'm pretty happy with the way I've set it up. Probably going to have a couple minor changes over time, but that barrel is doing exactly what I expect the Savage barrel to do. One more shout out. Thank you to Warbird for sending out their BTs. These are their Bluetooth Intrepids. They're rechargeable. I love these. So convenient. Every time that I forget to turn them off, they turn themselves off. And even if they die, I can just recharge them again, and I don't need batteries. Very, very convenient. I'm going to throw these on. Yeah, in those gusts, that's gonna ruin any bullet. I just have to try to shoot in the lulls. That's pretty strong, and I'm shooting high. I'm 13.2 mils, so I'm pretty high with this slow bullet. It's not an incredible BC bullet, but it's okay. And I just have to shoot in the lulls because otherwise it's going to send it all over the place at this distance. Again, it's pretty far beyond what I would recommend, but for fun, I should be able to still get some hits on this. Just as I was finishing up, getting towards the last rounds there, I did have a binding of the magazine. Nothing wrong with the gun. The magazine, though, did bind down, and so I had to just take it out quick and fix that bullet. Don't typically have issues like that, but I did just have one there, so I'll keep an eye on it. It's definitely going to require a little more windage to hold. I'm holding 2 mils of wind to get in that ballpark. Still I'm dancing around a little bit, which is to be expected for loads like this, going that slow especially. What impresses me is just how doable it is. So is 630 practical? Maybe not. Not for something quite this small, not really practical. And if I was going to do it a lot, I think I would invest in converting this into an SBR. I would go ahead and buy, this is a brace, I would buy a stock for it and I would convert it into an SBR. But as a pistol, it's probably asking kind of a lot to go this far. And it's going to ask a lot of you as far as doing your homework to find out how to make that work really well. But I'm enjoying it. I'm still having fun with it. 600 is pretty far. 500 is probably the slightly more practical distance for the extreme. Can you go further? Of course you can, and I probably will at times with different optics. Not so much with this one, something else in the future. But what I would say is a really practical range is 300 yards. I still have a lot of energy coming out of 300 blackout for small game. I still had a lot of precision and accuracy capability with that Savage trigger. You know, it goes down light enough. I can control those shots pretty well. You can throw this on an arc mount. You still get a good amount of burn off. You can throw a can on there and shoot it really quietly. And that 300 caliber or 30 caliber in general, there's a lot of bullet selection. So it's very underrated in my opinion. I think this as a pistol is really neat, but let's go to 330 yards because I think that's where something like this is going to shine the most. I'm going to get the most consistency or at least display better consistency than what I would at 630. It's just a touch too far with the bullets that I'm shooting today. Something else I've upgraded a lot of my rifles and pistols with would be the Anarchy Outdoors grips. This one happens to be the Alpha grip. I really like the Alpha grip. I've run the Tuxedo grip and the Penguin grip, and I do quite a bit between the Tuxedo grip and this Alpha grip right here. I like the shelf on the side. You can see I like the little bit of a kind of like a finger shelf on the bottom to keep your fingers together there. And the texture on it is really, really cool. The shape is neat. It just makes the gun feel good. And with this little precision pistol that I have here from Savage, thank you to Savage for sending this out to the channel, I find that this grip is kind of the natural feel for what I want to do with the pistol. And I could take it off and throw it on just about any rifle that I have, and I can make it a little bit more comfortable for me. I like that the heel, or like the place where your palm is going to rest, has that curved look to it on the back, and it has the texture there as well, but it's not overly aggressive. Actually, both sides have a little bit of an indent. The left side, my non-dominant side, also has a little bit of an indent or a shelf, but not much, just a little something there, kind of a recess. It is hollow, of course, but it's plenty strong, and I really like the feel of these grips. They're super affordable, and I would way rather support Anarchy Outdoors at this price point than some of the other brands out there that are charging, 2 or 3 times the price for something that might not even function as well as this one does, and more often than not doesn't have the shelf that Anarchy Outdoors has. So this one's really cool, and I highly, highly recommend one of those 3 that I mentioned previously. And it's only appropriate that I shout out to Maven for sending out that spotter. It's got fluorite glass. It's one of the coolest breakdown spotters I've ever used. Amazing image. It's so, so nice, and it's easy for me to carry around in my backpack because, like I said, I can twist off the eyepiece, and I could put on other eyepieces. Maven is just an awesome company, and if you want to check them out, use my link down in the comments. All right, I don't know if I can do this, but I'm going to try to smoke that clay pigeon at the base of at the base of the silhouette. Let's try for those 2. Should be able to see it. It was either really close or it bounced it over, maybe. It could have been a hit, but it looked like it maybe just bounced on the left to me. Either way, super impressed with this little Savage 110 PCS. Throwing the can on there usually takes down the accuracy a little bit. It's still pretty precise, and I'm very comfortable now that I can use this Anarchy Outdoors grip, which is awesome. When I do shoot really close and I'm not using this scope, I actually use this, which is the Osight X they sent out to the channel. Thank you for sending that out. Multiple reticles, really long battery life, rechargeable. It's a neat piggyback option, so if you've never considered that, maybe check out Osight. In case you're wondering, that is every bit as much fun as it looks like. I am having such a good time with this Savage. This thing is a real winner, and I feel like it's going to replace a couple other things, a couple other tools. I'll at least be taking this with deer hunting this year for some closer range shots, and it looks like I probably won't even need my hearing protection, which is amazing. Those are some big pills, man. Really, really fun. Wow. I'm just finishing up some work at 300 yards with this, and I think 300 yards is a very practical distance for this. I've pushed it definitely past that, as you've probably seen by now in the video, but I like 300 because it's still really repeatable. The velocity is still reasonable. I can still hunt with this, especially for small game. Big game, I think I'm still good at 200. With the bullets that I'm using, the velocities that I'm seeing. I think 200 is where foot-pounds energy is enough for me. I think I'm getting ethical kills if I were to use it on, like, whitetail, you know. But beyond that, it's more target practice and plinking, and this is very, very capable. I can't believe how well it stabilizes bullets. Maybe I should, because there's lots of 10.5-inch or 10-inch barrels out there for 300 blackout. It's a common length, rather. I'm just really surprised at the accuracy or the consistency and precision for the bullets that I'm running. Even with subsonics, the 208 grain Hornady AMAX bullets are flying so good. I just can't get over that. They're phenomenal. And then a couple other of the boat tail hollow point rounds. Obviously, the Federal subsonics did really, really well, as well as the Hornady. The Federals seem to be a little bit more expensive, but they do fly really good. And those running out to 500 yards, I just couldn't believe how consistent that was. One thing I need to do in order to use this optic with this base, I'm going to have to put on a different base, a 20 MOA base, with this to make that work better. Otherwise, I end up using such extreme holdovers and dialing as much as I can. Or when I had a 20 MOA base on here, that allowed me to extract a little more out of this. Actually, that's a 30 MOA rings on here. That allowed me to extract more out of it. I think what I'm going to do is just switch to a 20 MOA base at some point here, and then some different rings, a little bit different setup altogether than what you've seen so far. I've got some ideas of what I want to do, but it's practical. That's one of the things I want to say about this pistol is you can do a lot with this, and that's one of the reasons I have a red dot as well as a scope, because I can shoot and hunt really close, or I can blink pretty far, and 300 is no joke when you're coming to these velocities. Subsonic ammo being as consistent as it is a surprise to me, and I'm really happy with it. I think this gun just became, like, maybe my favorite gun. I don't know. I need to think about that. That's quite a statement, but I am having so much fun with this. It's incredible just how consistent and practical it is, too. It's more practical than I even thought it would be. I thought, yeah, some hunting and some plinking, but I'm just finding this can do a lot. It is not limited the way that I thought it would be. 300 yards, by the way. One of the first questions I do get asked is, does it suppress well? Is the change in impact significant? And I just need to remind you that that has to do with a few things. Yes, this needs to be concentric, and the threading needs to be done well, and all that matters. But beyond that, your can needs to be a good quality can. If it's super dirty or very clean, sometimes it changes harmonics. It changes the way that cans interact with different kinds of barrels or even different calibers. I just find it's such a touchy thing. I don't tend to talk about it a whole lot. And then also you're going to throw in another variable of the ammunition, and then lastly, you behind the trigger and how you shoot it when it's suppressed. It's very comfortable suppressed as far as the sound goes. As far as groups go, I've had hit and miss. There are bullets that have performed almost just as good suppressed as unsuppressed. There's always a little bit of a change. There's going to be a slight change there. I don't think it's because this is like a really flippy barrel. This is actually a pretty rigid barrel. I'm very happy with this. It's quite stout, and then it kind of tapers down to a little bit more of like a micro varmeter look, in my opinion. But I'm just going to say that's going to depend too much on you. So I can't give you a conclusive answer to that. That just wouldn't be fair or truthful to either of us. So when it comes to suppressors and cans and what you're going to attach on yours, you're going to have to play around with it and find out what it does. I will not speak to that. In my experience, I found a few loads that it does pretty well with. And I like to shoot suppressed a lot. I like to hunt suppressed a whole lot more. And so this is going to be something that I can put up with. And with the group sizes I'm seeing at 100 yards, unsuppressed, I know it does like well above the other 300 blackouts that I own for grouping. And when I throw that can on there, it's right in there with them, and I can live with that all day long for rabbits, squirrels, even at 100, 200 yards. I'm pretty content with what I'm seeing plinking, and then by the time I get out to 300 yards, the change is a little bit more noticeable. The change in impact is going to affect things a little bit more, and generally switching to subsonics anyways, you're just going to deal with more variables. But I want to throw that out there because people always ask, how are you getting such amazing groups? Well, I test ammo a lot. I try it out a couple different cans. I move things around, different configurations, so it's not like I just automatically discovered that. You're going to have to do the same thing, play around with it, and pretty much every gun is that way. Okay, this is going to be kind of random here, guys, but I had some leftover ammo, and I want to try out other stuff and see what I could do. All of this was with the can on. The can does hurt the accuracy a little bit. I'm using a Liberty Mystic X, and it's not quite as tight with the can as when the can is off. So I just want to be really clear and upfront about that. There is a change in harmonics. Other cans that are lighter would probably not affect it quite as much as what I'm seeing with the Liberty, but it suppresses well and it functions well. They're not wildly destabilized, although I do need to talk about that with one round. Let's start up here. First of all, the Winchester 200 grain open tip range. I know that one on the right is pretty stringy. It's very windy out right now. I'm hiding behind my vehicle just to film this, but in the wind I was able to get about 1.25 inch group, and I've shot that round multiple times. I had a bunch of that, and I dumped it through the gun, shot it again today, and I'm going to say, yeah, it's probably 1.25 inch grouping round with the can on. The 125 grain AAC has consistently produced a group of right around 1 inch, just a tad over in this one, but usually about 1 inch. The Freedom 220 grain Hull Point boat tails are very quiet. I don't find them to be incredibly consistent, but this is about what you can expect in the wind. They do oh man, I can't speak. They do tend to fly laterally a lot on me. The wind does just seem to push them around more than I would like to see. In the center here, the SIG 125s, I had to dial around that center target, so that's why they're in random different places. Disregard this little group over here. But those 3-shot groups that you're seeing from the SIG 125 are all about 1 inch or under. Then I had the Freedom 175s in the center. I tend to run those at long range a lot of times. I was curious what they would do. It's about a 2-inch group, so not amazing, but good enough for coyotes for sure, along with those Winchesters. And the SIG 220 open tip match. I don't know what's going on, but it is not stabilizing, and I believe those are slightly keyholing. They're not flying straight through the air. And then the SIG 125 FMJs, those are usually about 1 inch. Today was slightly over, not sure what the deal was, but about 1 inch is what I think a reliable estimation could be. If you're a good shooter, you have good trigger control. Now, the Hornady VMAX, those are the ones that's a 3-shot group. I only did 3 shot groups this time, and I know that gets me some scorn that I only did 3 shot groups. Even 5 shot groups would really get me scorn, but ammo's really expensive right now, and I've tested this a lot of other times, and the 110 grain VMAX is definitely the go-to bullet. If you're going to shoot 150 yards and in, that is going to be your tightest shooting bullet, almost undeniably. I'm hard pressed to say there's anything that will compete with it. I know that AAC also has some 110 grain VMAXs. A few other brands have those. Try those out if you're going to shoot relatively close. They're going to be way, way more precise than the other loadings are. That's just my experience so far. But if you're also open to shooting a bit further, try some of those heavier bullets out. If you have a decent lightweight can, throw it on there, see what happens. But for me and my experience, I'm gonna say probably the 110 grain VMAX is where you wanna go just for the best groupings. I'm okay with 1 inch or 2 inches for coyotes and bigger game or even rabbits. That doesn't bother me. I can deal with that at 100 yards, but when I shoot a little further, I'm gonna shoot the Hornady 208 grain AMAXs. I don't have any of those left right now. I've shot them all up, but those are pretty reliable as well. They did stabilize all right for me. They suppress really nicely, and it seems like harmonically they just do well in the barrel. So that's my experience. I want to throw that out there because some people are gonna be asking, where should you start with, what loadings? It's basically been Hornady for me. Hornady has done really well. Most of the Federal stuff does good, but Celier and below, I don't know how to pronounce that, S&B, that stuff does good. American Eagle does good. Those are all relatively similar or same. But I'm going to stick to the Hornady stuff for the purposes of my review probably in the future. If I'm just launching rounds out there, having fun, I'll shoot any of it, really. 2 MOA is fine. I can hit a man-sized target at 600 with that little pistol with some of the throwers. That's fun. But if I'm actually trying to be precise or I'm hunting and being as ethically consistent as possible, yeah, probably the VMAX. Okay, guys, this video is getting to be beyond 20 minutes, so I'm going to start closing it up. I really like this pistol. I do recommend it. Thank you to Savage for sending it out. Thank you to Anarchy Outdoors and O-Sight for sending out a few things, as well as Sunway Photo. There are some links in the comments for those. I'm a big fan of everything you've seen in this video, and that's the reason that it's in the video, is because it's mine. I run this stuff, and I actually would use it for hunting and plinking. It's just a fun time, and it's a really interesting conversation, a range piece. Everybody wants to play around with it, but it's actually a pretty serious pistol, and I want it to be taken that way. I'm actually considering the possibility of buying a stamp so I can SBR this because I take it that seriously and it performs that well. A couple features and stats that people are going to want to know about is this is 5.63 pounds, so it is under 6 pounds. It's got a 10.5 inch barrel. It's a carbon steel barrel, by the way, and it's medium contour, and they're all going to be threaded. You can get it in 6.5, 308, 350 Legend, which would have been really interesting as well. 223, that'll change the thread pitch to 1/2x28, obviously, and then I have it in 300 Blackout. That's really, really cool to see diversity of calibers, and then think of the applications for those calibers in a setup like this. A pistol like that is really neat, and it's uncommon, and actually quite affordable. The aluminum machine chassis is a one-piece chassis. It's 7-inch. It's the LSS from MDT, which is highly recommended as well. It's free-floating, and it has some M-LOK slots, so you can do interesting things like what you've seen here, or maybe you have more creative ideas than what I've shown so far. It's a one-piece MOA or 0 MOA rail on top, and that might be something you want to look at updating if you want to shoot it really far. It's a left-handed bolt, right-hand eject. If you didn't catch that, the bolt that I had was the spiral fluted bolt body, and that's really neat, looks really good. 2.5 pounds is the lowest you can go on the trigger. It's going to come a little bit heavier than that from the factory more than likely, but 2.5 pounds should be fully sufficient for hunting and plinking. I can't think of any reason to drop it much lower than that. There's a Picatinny rail at the rear of the chassis for accepting, kind of the standard braces that you see out there, maybe like the one that I showed you already, or if you SBR it, you can increase the capability of this platform by probably getting that tack stamp, like I said. It's going to accept most AR-15 pistol grips, like the one that you saw I added on there from Anarchy Outdoors. Thank you to Anarchy. Again, if you're interested in Anarchy or Savage or O-Sight or Sunway Photo, I'll have links down in the comments section. They were supporters of the channel and helped me produce this video. Another cool thing about that LSS chassis is it has the barricade grooves built or milled into the front of the magazine well, so you can kind of brace it against things. And something else that's really cool about this particular model is it's ambidextrous with the magazine release, and it accepts AICS magazines, which are known to be very, very reliable. Well, everybody, it shoots well, it suppresses well, it packs down really well. I don't know what else you would be looking for in a bolt-action pistol like this, but this is exactly the kind of thing years ago that I really dreamt about. I wanted to get something like this, and I'm already seeing how capable this is going to be for all my styles of shooting. If you like this, maybe let Savage know, give me a like on my video, maybe a share, tell somebody about it, maybe go to their website and check out what else they have, because like I said, Savage is doing a lot of innovative things. This is just one of many, and this year I got a chance to swing by their SHOT Show booth and see what else is going on. I'm really excited at what Savage is going to be bringing to the market. They're always innovative, and they're always listening to the consumer, and that's why they're producing stuff that my subscribers like. I thank you guys for watching this video, and stick around because maybe one of these videos that's been recommended for you is something you would also appreciate.